I never thought a single summer could change my entire life, but that's exactly what happened. It started with a small argument, something that seemed insignificant at the time. My auntie, the one I had always known as strict but fair, stormed into my room one evening, eyes blazing, hands trembling slightly. "You need to learn who you really are," she said, and I laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of joke. But I could see the seriousness in her gaze. I could feel it in the way she moved, every step calculated, almost predatory, like she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. I had always been a shy boy, the kind who avoided attention, who blended into the background, who never asked for more than what life gave me. But Aunty had always seemed different. She had an almost obsessive sense of control, and lately, I realized she had been watching me in ways that were uncomfortable. My friends teased me sometimes about my soft features, my hesitant voice, the way I dressed. I brushed it off, but Aunty never did. She said she could see something in me that I hadn't even discovered yet. That was the first time the words gender change entered our conversations. At first, it was just teasing, something I thought I could laugh off, but it escalated quickly. One evening, she called me into the living room. The house was quiet, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's pressing down on your chest. She was holding a small, inconspicuous box. I could feel my heart thudding in my chest as she sat me down. "I know this is going to be hard to understand, but I can help you," she said. "I know who you are, even if you don't. And I'm going to make sure you see it for yourself." Her voice was calm, but there was an edge, a firmness that left no room for refusal. My stomach turned, a mix of fear and curiosity twisting inside me. I didn't understand at the time, but she had been planning this for months. Every outfit I had tried on in the past, every compliment from strangers, every small urge to look in the mirror longer than usual, she had noticed. And now, she was taking control in a way that I couldn't resist. "It's only for a week at first," she said, opening the box. Inside were clothes I had never dared to imagine wearing, delicate, feminine dresses, skirts, blouses, and tiny shoes that seemed too small for me, yet inviting in some strange, terrifying way. My mind screamed, "This is wrong. This is insane." But my body felt a curious pull, like something I had been hiding inside for years was finally calling out. She started small, insisting I try on just one outfit. At first, it was a simple blouse and skirt. I froze in front of the mirror, unable to move. The reflection staring back at me was not the boy I recognized. It was soft, delicate, vulnerable, and yet, for the first time, I felt alive. Aunty helped me adjust the clothing, showed me how to wear it, how to move in it, how to hold myself differently. I hated it and loved it at the same time. There was a thrill I hadn't known, a secret sense of freedom buried beneath layers of fear and shame. Over the next few days, it escalated. Aunty would pick my outfits for me, guide my hair into styles I never thought I could wear, teach me how to apply makeup. Each morning I woke up with a sinking dread, knowing I had no choice, but at night, when I saw my reflection fully dressed, fully transformed, I couldn't stop staring. She had a way of making it feel normal, almost inevitable. "You are meant to be seen this way," she would whisper, and her words dug into me, sinking deeper than I expected. I wanted to resist, but part of me, the part one had buried under years of embarrassment, wanted to give in completely. The first time I left the house dressed in full feminine attire was the most terrifying experience of my life. Every step I took felt like stepping onto a stage. Every glance felt magnified. People stared, and some whispered, but Aunty held my hand tightly, grounding me. Her presence made it bearable, but when she wasn't looking, I noticed the way my reflection in shop windows startled me. I didn't recognize the person looking back, yet a tiny part of me felt an undeniable connection. That night, back at home, I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I felt like I had unlocked a part of myself I never knew existed. Week by week, Auntie's influence grew. She wasn't cruel, but she was relentless. She guided me through each transformation, from voice training to posture, to learning how to express myself differently. The more I changed, the more I felt like a new person, yet the old me didn't disappear completely. It lingered in quiet moments, in the way I sometimes stumbled over words, in the hesitation I felt when someone called me by my new name. It was a constant tension, a battle between who I had been and who I was becoming. One afternoon, Aunty surprised me by taking me to a cafe, insisting I go alone while she waited outside. I sat at a small table, heart pounding, dressed in a pastel dress, my hair cascading over my shoulders, makeup carefully applied. The stares were inevitable. I felt exposed, raw, but I also felt exhilarated. A stranger complimented me, calling me beautiful, and my chest tightened. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't vanity, it was recognition. Someone else could see me fully, completely, and it didn't feel wrong. It felt right. Returning home, I confronted Aunty for the first time. "Why are you doing this to me?" I asked, voice shaking. "Because you need to see who you are," she replied simply. "This is not punishment. This is freedom. I'm giving you the choice to live openly, even if you don't realize it yet." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to argue, to scream, to refuse, but the truth was, I had already changed. I had already accepted parts of myself I had been hiding for years. The days turned into weeks. I learned to embrace my new identity in small ways, choosing my own clothes, practicing my voice, learning how to move with confidence. Aunty watched, always present, guiding without forcing, allowing me space to explore. I began to see myself not as a boy trapped in someone else's expectations, but as someone discovering themselves, someone allowed to exist fully, unapologetically. There were moments of doubt, moments when the weight of societal expectations pressed down, when I questioned whether I was making a mistake. But Aunty was always there, not to push me, but to remind me that courage is not the absence of fear, it is moving forward despite it. She taught me that identity is not something given, it is something claimed, something nurtured, something fought for. By the end of that summer, I looked in the mirror and didn't just see the reflection Aunty had helped me create. I saw myself, complete and whole, a mix of every secret wish I had ever held and every truth I had feared to speak. I was no longer just a boy, and I wasn't just the girl I had become. I was me, complex, evolving, and entirely real. The transformation wasn't just external. It reshaped the way I saw the world, the way I saw myself, and the way I moved through life. Aunty had forced me into this journey, yes, but in doing so, she gave me the tools to claim my identity, to embrace it fully, to live openly without fear. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't without struggle, but it was real, and it was mine. Even now, when I think back, I can remember the fear, the thrill, the confusion, and the ultimate acceptance. I can remember Auntie's steady gaze, the careful guidance, and the unspoken promise that I was meant for more than hiding in the shadows. That summer changed everything. I went in as a shy boy and came out as someone entirely new, someone who could finally face the world as myself, someone who had learned that courage, identity, and love for oneself are the greatest transformations of all. I still feel nervous sometimes, stepping out into the world fully visible, but I also feel powerful. I carry the lessons of that summer with me every day, the knowledge that transformation is not just about appearance, it's about discovering, embracing, and claiming the life you were always meant to live. And I know, deep down, that Aunty was right. I needed this. I needed to be forced, in a way, to confront who I truly was. Because sometimes, the only way to find yourself is to be pushed beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond every limit you've placed on your own potential. And when you do, when you finally embrace yourself fully, the world feels brighter, the air feels lighter, and life feels like it's finally yours to live. The days after that summer felt strange, as if the world itself had shifted slightly to accommodate the new version of me. I still lived in the same house, walked the same streets, saw the same faces, but everything had a different texture now. People's reactions were sharper, more immediate, and I couldn't always predict them. Some smiled at me kindly, others stared with thinly veiled judgment, and some whispered just enough for me to catch, their words slicing like cold knives. Every reaction left a mark, but it also forced me to build a shield I had never known I needed. Aunty was still there, of course, always a silent observer, guiding without overt interference. She insisted on subtlety now, letting me choose my outfits for the day, showing me how to walk into a room with confidence, how to hold a conversation without collapsing under the weight of attention. But there were nights when she would sit beside me, looking at me with that unwavering gaze, and I knew she was testing me. Testing whether I could hold myself together when the world tried to pull me apart. I remember one night particularly vividly. I had just returned from the grocery store, wearing a soft pink blouse and a skirt that twirled slightly when I walked. The cashier, a young man who barely looked at me, said, "You look nice today." Simple words, but they hit me harder than I expected. My chest tightened, a strange warmth spreading through my body, but immediately, doubt rushed in. Was I overreacting? Was I imagining importance in words meant to be casual? That's when Aunty appeared behind me, leaning against the doorway, her arms crossed. "You're overthinking," she said softly. "Every reaction matters. Every glance, every word, they're part of the mirror the world holds up to you. Don't shy away from it. Step into it." Her voice was calm but carried authority, and I realized I had been shrinking, hiding my reactions even from myself. That night, I sat in my room and stared at my reflection, trying to reconcile the boy I had been with the girl I was becoming, trying to understand how both could exist at once. It was exhausting, terrifying, and yet quietly exhilarating. School was another battlefield. I had always been invisible there, the quiet kid who didn't raise a hand, didn't draw attention. Now, every class felt like a spotlight, every glance a magnifying glass. My friends didn't know the full truth yet, and Aunty insisted I keep it that way. "You reveal yourself when you're ready," she would say, "but for now, protect your journey. Some battles are private." That meant lying more than I ever had, carefully navigating questions about clothes, hair, and voice. Some days I felt like I was sinking under the weight of pretense, but other days, when someone complimented me or treated me differently, I felt the thrill of being seen. One afternoon, a group of classmates cornered me after school. "Why are you wearing that?" one of them asked, voice dripping with curiosity and judgment. My stomach twisted, panic clawing at my chest, but I remembered Aunty's words. I straightened, lifted my chin, and smiled softly. "It's just how I like to dress," I said quietly. Silence followed, then laughter, and then something unexpected, a respectful nod from someone I didn't expect. That small moment felt like victory, proof that maybe, just maybe, I could navigate this world without fear. At home, Aunty was waiting for me. She didn't scold, didn't lecture, but the quiet intensity of her gaze made me confess. "They laughed," I whispered. "They don't understand." She stepped closer, placing a hand gently on my shoulder. "Let them laugh," she said. "They only see what they are taught to see. You see yourself. You hold your truth. That is power." Her words lingered, embedding themselves deep within me, shaping my resolve. Weeks passed, and the transformation deepened not just in appearance, but in essence. I began exploring things I had never dared to before. The softness of a scarf, the shimmer of nail polish, the way a gentle tone in my voice could command attention or calm a room. Aunty encouraged exploration, insisting that identity isn't just about the body or clothing, it's about presence, energy, and self-expression. I felt my old self fading into the background, not lost but folded carefully into the layers of someone new, someone brave enough to face mirrors, peers, and strangers without flinching. Then came the day Aunty announced a new challenge. "You're going out alone," she said, handing me a small envelope. Inside were directions to a cafe several blocks away and a note. "No phone, no hiding, just yourself. Look into the world, and let it look back." My chest sank. Fear surged. I had never been alone in public fully dressed like this. But Aunty's presence, even from a distance, bolstered me. I dressed carefully, practiced my posture, and stepped out, each step a drumbeat of courage in my chest. The walk was torture at first. Every glance from passers-by felt magnified, every whisper seemed directed at me. But slowly, something shifted. A little girl waved at me from the sidewalk. A shopkeeper smiled. People moved around me, unaware, uninterested, yet in their indifference, I found freedom. I reached the cafe, hands trembling slightly, and for the first time, I ordered my own drink, paid, and sat alone. No one judged me, no one mocked me, and I realized something profound. The world didn't have the power I had always feared it held. I did. Returning home, Aunty greeted me with a quiet smile. "You've begun to understand," she said. "Not just the appearance, not just the clothes or makeup, but the courage to exist fully. That is your transformation." I felt tears prick my eyes. "I'm still scared," I admitted. "But I feel right." She nodded. "Good. That is the point. Fear is temporary. Acceptance is permanent." From that point on, life became a series of small victories. Friends gradually noticed the changes, some accepted, some questioned, and others drifted away. I learned to navigate the waves of attention, judgment, and curiosity. Each day was a new test, a new chance to stand in my truth, to embrace the identity that had been waiting for me all along. Auntie's guidance never wavered, yet she gave me space, letting me make mistakes, letting me fall, and then helping me rise stronger. I can still remember the first time I looked at myself and thought, not in panic, not in doubt, but with certainty, this is who I am. It wasn't about pleasing anyone, not Auntie, not strangers, not society. It was about me seeing me, fully and unapologetically. And in that reflection, I found strength, courage, and freedom I had never imagined. Transformation had taken me far beyond clothes, hair, or voice. It had taken me deep into the uncharted territories of my soul, forcing me to confront fear, doubt, and secrecy, and ultimately, to embrace my truth. And I knew, no matter what challenges came next, no matter what judgment or curiosity the world held, I had the foundation to stand, unwavering, entirely myself. The following weeks were intense in ways I could never have imagined. Every morning, I woke with a mix of dread and excitement, unsure which part of me would dominate that day, the boy I had once been, or the girl I was becoming. Auntie had begun introducing subtle social experiments, small but deliberate challenges designed to push me out of my comfort zone. "You cannot hide from yourself anymore," she said one morning as she handed me a skirt and a light sweater. "Walk to the park. Speak to strangers. Sit on the bench. Just be seen." My hands trembled as I dressed, staring at my reflection. The person looking back was soft, delicate, and entirely different from the shy boy who had walked into this house just months ago. The walk to the park felt endless. Each step echoed in my chest like a drum of exposure. People glanced, some whispered, and I felt every eye like a weight pressing down, threatening to break me. But Auntie's words echoed in my mind, steady and grounding. I remembered her voice. "Courage is not the absence of fear, but moving forward despite it." With trembling legs, I stepped into the sunlight, past the playground, and sat on a bench, my skirt brushing my knees, my fingers tightly gripping the edge of the seat. At first, no one noticed me. The world moved around me, oblivious, yet that oblivion felt liberating. A little girl ran past, giggling, and glanced at me with curiosity, not judgment. I smiled instinctively, a small, genuine smile, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of connection with someone outside my reflection. Then an older woman approached, carrying a small basket of flowers. She nodded at me warmly. "You look lovely, dear," she said. My chest tightened, tears threatening, and I realized in that moment that this world could accept me even in small, fleeting gestures. Returning home, Auntie didn't greet me with words, only a look. One glance at her eyes, and I knew she was measuring me, evaluating the strength I had shown. "You survived," she said simply. "You didn't shrink. That is progress." Her approval warmed me, yet I couldn't shake the gnawing anxiety that I was still unprepared for what came next. She was pushing me, yes, but she also knew that my limits were still undefined, that I had yet to discover just how far I could go. And then came the first real test. Auntie announced that we would be attending a local art exhibition. You will be on display in a public setting where strangers will see you, interact with you, judge you, and perhaps misunderstand you. You must remain yourself. I froze. My heart hammered, and my stomach twisted. The thought of being surrounded by people who had no knowledge of my transformation terrified me. But Auntie's steady presence and quiet encouragement forced me to prepare. She helped me choose a dress, apply makeup subtly, and style my hair in a way that felt natural yet captivating. "Confidence is your best outfit," she said, and I clung to that mantra like a lifeline. Walking into the exhibition, I felt eyes turn toward me immediately. Whispers followed, quick glances, but nothing overtly cruel. I moved through the gallery cautiously, touching the smooth surface of sculptures, examining paintings, listening to hushed conversations. A few people smiled, some nodded, some ignored me, but through it all, I forced myself to breathe, to hold my posture, to speak softly but clearly. Every step felt like a declaration. I am here, and I exist. One interaction still haunts me. A young man approached, offering a compliment, genuine but hesitant. "You have a unique presence," he said. My chest tightened with embarrassment, yet also with something else: validation. Someone else could see me fully, without suspicion or judgment, and it felt exhilarating. I smiled softly, muttered a thank you, and moved on, heart pounding. That night, Aunty didn't lecture or praise. She merely nodded. I could feel that subtle approval, a quiet acknowledgement that I had passed another milestone, that I was discovering resilience I never knew existed. The following days became a mix of exploration and self-discovery. I experimented with clothes, colors, and styles I had once feared, learning which reflected the person I was becoming and which felt like remnants of old insecurities. Aunty guided me gently, offering advice on posture, voice, and expression, but never forcing me. She wanted me to claim this identity fully, to understand that transformation wasn't just skin deep, it was living, breathing, unrelenting, and completely my own. Then came the most unexpected moment of all. I was alone in my room, staring at my reflection in the mirror, when I realized something profound. The reflection looking back at me was confident, soft, and fully alive. The fear that had dominated my mornings, the anxiety that had haunted my walks, the shame that had whispered in my ears, they were still there, faint echoes, but they no longer defined me. I was no longer hiding. I was visible, powerful in my vulnerability, and entirely myself. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered to my reflection, "This is me. I am me." Aunty entered silently, standing behind me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. "Yes," she said softly. "You've come far, but remember, transformation is never truly over. It is a journey, a constant unfolding. You must continue to explore, to grow, to live openly." I nodded, knowing she was right. The summer that had forced me into this journey had changed everything, but the path ahead was still mine to navigate. From that day forward, life became a continuous series of small victories, public experiments, private discoveries, and personal revelations. I learned to navigate the world confidently, to interact with people without fear, to embrace compliments without shame, and to assert myself without apology. Every reflection, every glance, every word became a tool, a mirror, a reminder that I had the right to exist fully as myself. Even in the quiet moments, I felt the weight of transformation lingering. The boy I had been was never entirely gone, but he no longer dominated me. He existed quietly, folded into the new layers I had built, a reminder of how far I had come. The girl I had become was not just an experiment or a role, it was an essential, undeniable truth. Aunty never forced me after that summer. Her presence became subtler, a guiding hand when needed, a quiet shadow of encouragement. But the lessons remained: courage, acceptance, and authenticity. I had been forced to confront my fears, yes, but in doing so, I had discovered the strength to claim my own identity, to live openly, and to embrace the fullness of who I was meant to be. And so, As I sit now and look at my reflection, I see a person transformed not just in appearance, but in essence. Every step, every glance, every whispered word from the world has shaped me, and yet I have claimed myself fully, unapologetically, and with courage. I am no longer afraid, no longer hiding. I am visible, I am alive, and I am entirely me. The weeks after the art exhibition became the most challenging period of my transformation. For the first time, I felt the real weight of public perception pressing down on me. Every outing, every casual trip to the grocery store, every encounter with neighbors felt like a test I hadn't signed up for. Aunty had stepped back slightly, watching silently, giving me room to navigate these moments on my own. I could feel her gaze even when she wasn't physically present, a quiet assurance that I wasn't alone. One morning, she handed me a handwritten invitation. "There is a neighborhood gathering tonight," she said. "You will go alone. No explanations. Just yourself." My stomach sank. A room full of people, many of whom had known me since childhood, and all eyes potentially on me, was terrifying. I hesitated, but Aunty's calm voice reminded me, "This is not punishment. This is freedom. You must claim it." I nodded, forcing myself to dress carefully. I chose a soft lavender dress, paired it with subtle accessories, and styled my hair in a way that felt elegant but not overly dramatic. Every movement I made felt deliberate, every breath measured, as I prepared to face a world that might not accept me. Walking into the gathering, I felt all my fears crystallize. Conversations paused briefly, whispers ricocheted around the room, and I could feel the scrutiny, like a physical weight. I took slow, steady steps, trying to breathe, trying to remind myself that I was not a mistake, that I was valid, that I had the right to exist fully as I was. A few familiar faces smiled, some nodded, but many were silent, unsure how to react. I forced a soft smile, a small gesture that became my shield. Then someone I had never expected approached me. Mrs. Anwar, the neighbor who had often been critical of me in the past, stood with arms crossed, examining me carefully. My heart raced. I expected a sharp comment, a cruel word, a judgment that would undo all the progress I had made. But instead, she smiled faintly. "You look different, but good," she said, her tone uncertain but not unkind. My chest tightened, and tears threatened again. The approval of even one unexpected person felt monumental, a validation I hadn't realized I craved so deeply. After the gathering, I walked home in silence, reflecting on the night. Every fear I had carried, the whispers, the stares, the judgment was real, but none of it had defeated me. I had survived, and more importantly, I had faced myself fully in a public space. That night, Aunty didn't say much. She simply smiled, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You've begun to understand the truth of yourself. Nothing external can take that from you now." Her words sank deep, anchoring me in a growing sense of self-confidence I had never known. The next few days were quieter, but equally transformative. I began exploring my interests more boldly, joining online communities of people who shared similar experiences, reading about identity, learning about self-expression, and discovering that the world was far larger and more accepting than I had imagined. Each discovery, each connection, added layers to my understanding of myself, deepening the authenticity that Aunty had helped me uncover. One evening, a crisis tested me like never before. My old friend, someone I had grown up with, saw me in full transformation unexpectedly. His reaction was immediate and visceral, a mixture of shock, confusion, and barely concealed judgment. My first instinct was panic, to flee, to hide, to retreat into the boy I had once been. But Auntie's lessons echoed in my mind. Courage is moving forward despite fear. I took a deep breath, held my gaze, and explained gently, "This is who I am. I understand it's surprising, but I need you to see me as I am." The moment stretched painfully. Then slowly he nodded. Not full acceptance, not complete understanding, but acknowledgement. And in that acknowledgement, I felt the weight lift slightly. I realized that not everyone would understand, and that was okay. My identity didn't depend on universal approval. It depended on my recognition of myself, my claim to my own truth. From that point, I began to assert myself more confidently in every aspect of life. I spoke up in conversations, engaged with strangers with a calm certainty, and even challenged assumptions quietly but firmly. Aunty observed silently, smiling faintly, knowing that her role was shifting from guide to witness. I was no longer merely being transformed. I was now fully inhabiting the transformation, owning it, living it, breathing it. Months passed, and life began to settle into a new rhythm. I no longer feared mirrors, public spaces, or judgment. I learned to navigate social situations with grace, confidence, and authenticity. My relationship with Aunty evolved as well, no longer a strict mentor forcing change, but a confidant, a partner in discovery, someone who had sparked a journey that would continue for the rest of my life. And yet, even as the external world adjusted, the internal transformation continued. I discovered facets of my personality I had never known: resilience, empathy, courage, and creativity that had been buried under layers of fear. I realized that identity is not a fixed thing but a continuous unfolding, a dance between past and present, fear and courage, secrecy and truth. Looking back now, I can see the full arc of that journey. The shy boy who hid in shadows, terrified of judgment, had grown into someone fully visible, fully alive, and unapologetically authentic. The girl I had become was not a role or a disguise. She was the manifestation of courage, truth, and self-acceptance. And Aunty, who had guided me through the labyrinth of fear and doubt, had given me a gift that no one else could: the knowledge that I had the power to claim my identity, to live openly, and to embrace the life I was meant to lead. Every glance in the mirror now feels like a celebration, every interaction a testament to growth, every whisper of doubt a reminder of how far I have come. The world still stares, still questions, still judges at times, but I have learned to walk through it unflinching, to stand fully visible, to claim my space. Transformation is no longer something done to me, it is something I own, something I live, and something I will continue to explore for the rest of my life. And so, I continue, step by step, day by day, discovering, asserting, and living the truth that was always inside me. The journey that began as a forced summer of change has become a lifetime of courage, acceptance, and self-discovery. And in that truth, I have found freedom, strength, and the unshakable knowledge that I am, and always will be, entirely myself. The following months became a period of profound self-discovery. By now, I had fully embraced my identity, yet the journey was far from over. Every mirror reminded me not just of the girl I had become, but of the boy I had once been, and the tension between those selves remained a quiet hum in my mind. Some days it was subtle, a fleeting pang of nostalgia or fear, but other days it roared, testing my confidence and threatening to unravel the life I had built. One evening, Aunty called me to her room. She had a soft, serious look I hadn't seen before. "It's time," she said simply. My heart jumped. Time for what? Another test? Another challenge? I hesitated, but her gaze anchored me. "Time to face the world entirely on your own," she continued. "No guidance, no preparation. Just you." Fear surged immediately. I felt the weight of everything I had learned, every small victory, every moment of courage, and it all pressed down on me. But beneath it, a strange thrill began to grow. I realized this was what I had been preparing for all along. The moment where I would no longer need anyone's approval or protection, where I would walk fully visible and claim my identity completely. The next day, I dressed meticulously, choosing a dress that felt entirely like me: soft, confident, elegant, yet approachable. I styled my hair with care, applied makeup in a way that accentuated my features without hiding them, and for the first time, I didn't second-guess a single choice. I was ready. Walking out of the house alone that morning felt monumental. Every step was deliberate, every breath conscious. The streets were familiar, yet now they felt like a stage, a place where I could finally claim my space without fear. People glanced, whispered, sometimes stared, but I held my posture, my gaze steady, my presence undeniable. Each interaction became a test of my own courage, and each moment I passed without flinching felt like a victory. At the park, I paused by the fountain, taking in the sunlight, the sound of children laughing, the murmur of conversations. A man walked past and offered a polite nod. A woman smiled from across the path. A little boy pointed and whispered to his mother, curious but not mocking. I realized in that instant that visibility no longer terrified me, it empowered me. The world could see me, and I could exist fully in that gaze, unafraid, unapologetic. That evening, I returned home and found Aunty waiting, a proud smile on her face. She didn't need to say anything. I could feel it, the acknowledgement of everything I had endured, everything I had conquered, and everything I had become. "You've done it," she said softly. "You've claimed yourself." And for the first time, I fully understood the depth of what she had given me, the courage to live authentically, the strength to embrace every part of myself, and the freedom to exist without compromise. The days that followed solidified my confidence. I navigated social situations with ease, learned to deflect judgment without internalizing it, and discovered a quiet joy in living openly. Even moments of doubt or fear were now manageable, mere ripples on a pond rather than storms threatening to capsize me. I had built resilience through experience, through confrontation, through small victories that accumulated into an unshakable foundation. One afternoon, I found myself alone in my room, looking at a series of photographs Aunty had taken during the early stages of my transformation. At first, I felt a pang of embarrassment, a flash of fear, but as I continued flipping through them, I saw the journey clearly for the first time. The shy, uncertain boy, the hesitant first steps into femininity, the awkward experiments, the public outings, and the small victories, all of it traced a path to this moment, to the confident, fully realized person staring back at me from the mirror. I realized then that transformation is never just about appearances. It is about courage, acceptance, self-love, and perseverance. It is about confronting fear head-on and discovering that the strength to exist authentically was always inside, waiting to be claimed. Aunty had forced me into this journey, yes, but she had also given me the tools to take ownership of my own identity, to live openly and fearlessly. Weeks later, I met with old friends, people who had known me before my transformation. There were questions, there were stares, there were moments of awkward silence, but there were also moments of recognition and connection. Some accepted immediately, some hesitated, and some drifted away. And in that mix, I realized something profound. I did not need universal approval. I only needed to live truthfully, fully, and unapologetically. By now, the world no longer felt like an arena where I was constantly tested. I had claimed my space, navigated judgment, and embraced my identity with every fiber of my being. The reflection in the mirror no longer scared me, it empowered me. I saw not just a girl, not just a boy who had been, but a complete person, a combination of all experiences, all fears, all courage, all victories, and all self-discovery. And Aunty? She remained a quiet presence, sometimes offering guidance, sometimes stepping back, always a steady reminder that I had the right to claim my life and live authentically. The summer that had started as a forced transformation had become a lifetime of lessons, a journey that reshaped every aspect of who I was. As I look back now, I can see the full arc of the journey. The shy, uncertain boy who had hidden in shadows, terrified of judgment, had grown into someone fully visible, fully alive, and unapologetically authentic. The girl I had become was not a role, not an experiment. It was the manifestation of courage, truth, and self-acceptance. And the lessons from that forced summer, the lessons of fear, resilience, courage, and identity continue to guide me every day. I step into the world now without hesitation. Every glance in a mirror is no longer a test, but a celebration. Every interaction is a chance to assert my identity, my truth. I no longer fear judgment, no longer shrink, no longer hide. I have claimed my identity fully, and in doing so, I have discovered a freedom, a strength, and a sense of self that I never thought possible. The journey is ongoing, and I know it always will be. Transformation is not a single moment, a single summer, or a single decision. It is continuous, evolving, and deeply personal. But I have the tools, the courage, and the understanding to navigate it. I am no longer a boy hiding from the world, nor merely a girl discovering herself. I am entirely me. And in that truth, in that full, unapologetic existence, I have found everything I could have ever hoped for: courage, identity, acceptance, and freedom. The journey that began with fear has led me to an unshakable certainty. I am valid, I am strong, and I am entirely, unequivocally myself.